everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today I just finished watching episode 2 of The Last of Us on HBO, and man, this show is continuing to impress. They're continuing to do exactly what they did last episode, where, you know, they're telling the story the way that we know it, but they're changing some things, but nothing super significant. In fact, you could almost say that the way that they're kind of, I don't want to say trimming, but streamlining maybe some of the events, some of the buildings you go through in the game, kind of make it more effective. But also they're expanding on the world. We once again open on something that was not in the game. We are in I forget the name of the country, but it was a country that was mentioned on the radio in the first episode, so we're actually in that country at the very beginning, and we get this whole sequence where the leading expert on fungal infections, or you know, whatever you want to call it, they get brought in by the military because they're like, hey, we got someone here who's seemingly infected by this fungi, and you know, it's just this whole terrifying thing where we see like a little bit of an autopsy happening, and she sees how much the fungi has just gone through this entire human body. And they mention how, like, well, there's like 14 people who were at the same wheat and flour plant, and they weren't at work today, so you know. And so basically she tells him, like, there's no medicine, there's no cure, there's nothing we can do. You gotta bomb the city, you gotta bomb everything, kill everyone inside the entire city, because there's not, you know, that's the only way you can try to prevent this. Now, of course, we're hearing all this knowing that does not work, but you know, it kind of just, I love that we're getting these little tidbits of, like, you know, it could be argued if this is canon to the game or not, but either way, it's cool that we're getting more answers than I feel like we ever got in the games. I know that if you read every newspaper and every little item that you picked up, you might have gotten some kind of tidbits of kind of what happened and how we got to this point in the video games. But I like that the show is just like, you know, maybe every episode, I hope so. I hope every episode they keep on showing us a little bit more, because it's great. It's great stuff. I think so far those are like my favorite parts of the episodes, but the rest of it's great too, you know. So we pick up exactly where we left off, and just like the games, you know, we're still trying to escape this Boston area. We're right outside the quarantine zone, and they go through a hotel, and then they have to go through a museum, and we encounter our clickers for the first time, you know. So and the clickers were great. They work exactly the way that they're supposed to, and they sound amazing. And just, you know, if you had all the lights off and you're watching this, and especially if you're watching this with someone who does not know what the clickers are and has not they didn't know that was about to come, I can only imagine that was, you know, a crazy moment for them. We do get a little bit more about some things that they changed, and these are changes that I was a little bit hesitant on when I first heard them happening. So before the show started, I had heard that instead of spores, we're going to be getting tendrils and tentacles and whatever else, right? Stuff like that. And I was like, oh no, tell me they're not going to turn this into the Upside Down from Stranger Things, right? Like, because that's the same idea. In the Upside Down, they have all those tendrils everywhere, and those are all like connected to each other, all into one system. So you got to watch out and not touch the tendrils, right? Like, that's the idea in Stranger Things. So, you know, the first episode we saw how the infected now have the fungi little tendrils coming out of their mouth, and we do get more of an explanation about how some of the fungi grows deep underground, and some of it is miles and miles long, and if you were to kill one infected, or if you were to accidentally touch the wrong part, it would send out a whole alert to anything nearby that's attached to that exact same system. And they even kind of demonstrate this on how, like, we saw like a crowd of them just lying on the ground, and then the sun would hit all of them, and they'd all like shift in the same direction at the same time. So it's like they're kind of showing how like they're all connected to each other. So, you know, it's different than it is in the game. I don't think the games have this sort of hive mind type thing happening. But it is adding a new, you know, kind of a new riff on it, but you know, it's without changing too much, you know what I mean? So I'm okay with this. I feel like as long as we don't get too Stranger Things with it, you know what I mean? Because it just feels like we've seen that, we've seen the Upside Down in that show a whole lot. So if we just have like another show where they're basically gonna show that and do that, like, I don't know, it would feel like I hope they're more subtle about it. In this episode, they were. You know, we show how, you know, a little tiny fungal root like touched the hand of one of the infected, and then suddenly that infected like woke up and got alerted to the presence of everyone at the museum, you know. So it was really cool the way that they managed to do that. But anyways, so yeah, in this episode, like we kind of knew what was going to happen. Tess, of course, ends up, she got infected, she got bit by one of the clickers, and so they go to the Firefly meetup, and of course the Firefly are all gone, they're all dead. You know, there was like this big shootout, some of them got attacked, and now a bunch of these other infected are alerted, and Tess is going to stay behind to explode them all with a bunch of grenades. And you know, they have like these big crates of guns and stuff, which, you know, again, this show is so faithful to the games that like even like the types of grenades that you see and the big boxes, exactly the way they're lined up in the games, like it is literally exactly how it is in the games. You know, it was very, very impressive. Just they got all the details right. But anyways, yeah, so Tess is gone. She even like went out with this weird, like, she kind of, like, I get the infection was taking over her body, but she like, this infected person came over and gave her like a mouth to mouth with like the tendrils coming in. It was like, ugh. Anyways, she was trying to light this lighter, and her hand, I guess she was losing control of her body, so I guess she couldn't have done anything. But in any case, giant explosion happens, Tess is gone, and now it's just Joel and Ellie. And basically Joel gets convinced at the last second that like, okay, maybe this is real. Ellie really is, you know, she's immune to the infection, you know, so maybe there actually is hope. Which, you know, again, it's not like I can pretend like I don't know exactly where this is going and what's going to end up happening. So I am curious how they're going to deal with that, right? Like, because now I have to be like, oh, Joel has hope that there can be a cure. Yeah, sure. Okay. Anyways, but yeah, just another really great episode. A lot of awesome moments. We got, you know, I would say this one had a lot more, you know, other than the very beginning of the first episode, I would say this one had more like horror elements, you know. Just some really cool stuff. The world building, everything about it just looks really awesome. And I guess next episode we're going to be going to what was their name, Bill and Frank's or something like that. Anyways, the guy that helps you out. So yeah, just we're still following the trajectory of the game while also changing some things up a little bit, just a little bit. And I feel like it's just enough to keep it fresh without like crazily diverting away from what we know, you know what I mean? And they're striking that good balance, so I hope they keep it up. But yeah, another great episode. I hope we keep on getting, you know, those like little 5 to 10 minute intros where they kind of like, here's what happened right before the the thing happened, you know. show us how they even mentioned how in America they started bombing cities just like that lady doctor said that they should. So show us that, you know. It'd be great to show us how all this happened, you know. Maybe even that day how like we see, what was her name, was it Sarah, Joel's daughter? When we see Joel's daughter and we're following her and we see like the police cars going in the background and all this craziness happen, but she like just barely misses all of what's happening in the world, you know, because there's no Twitter or anything in 2003, so she had no way of knowing. Show us what was happening on that day, you know, leading up to the night of it all going down, because, you know, obviously the military was already like active and moving, and people were hearing things on the radio and people were calling each other saying, you got to get out of there, you know. So yeah, I hope we keep on seeing more of that stuff, you know, because we're essentially getting our main story with small little sequences of a semi prequel thing happening, you know, of the world. So hopefully it continues. But yeah, just really great, really awesome. They're doing it. They're really doing it, you know. Like I know some people thought maybe it's too early to say it's like the best video game adaptation ever, but you know, like we're 2 episodes in, and I cannot see them taking some drastic left turn at this point, you know. I mean, it could happen, right? Like that would be crazy if they're doing so well and then suddenly they're just like, but what if we changed everything drastically, you know? yeah, I think as long as they stay the course, as long as they keep hitting this balance of like, here's some new things, but here's everything you also still recognize, but maybe slightly new, but not too new, you know, if they keep on hitting that really careful balance, you know, they're gonna do it. They're gonna pull it off. We're gonna have just one really great season of TV. I'm assuming the entire first game is gonna happen in these 9 episodes, right? I'm assuming that, but I could be wrong. Oh man, I never even thought about that. What if they split the first game into 2 seasons? Huh. It's possible. I think there's enough game to do that. I don't know if they will. I never even considered this. Well, in any case, I enjoy what I'm seeing. Just the show's doing its thing. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.